Alright guys, let's get this show on the road. First set of questions come from Diesel101 Raw. Check him out. He says, Chris Jericho's peak years in your opinion. Well, I got a few. First has to be 1998 in his year with WCW. That was the time Jericho turned heel, and that's when he started to do stuff, color outside the lines, if you want to put it that way. He started to do all of his great stuff that we know today. WCW Monday Jericho, where he had that shirt going around. That was pretty awesome. He had the thing with Goldberg, Jericho 5, Greenberg 0, the conspiracy victim theory. The conspiracy theory where he went to D.C. and tried to get into the Library of Congress. Then, talked to the lady on the lawn. The conspiracy victim sign with the arrow pointing to his head in the D.C. traffic. Great stuff. Of course, my personal favorite, the Man of 1,004 holds. Classic stuff right there. You can't beat that stuff. And that really wasn't the company wanting to build Jericho up. That was basically Jericho just doing whatever he wanted to do, and it ultimately got him noticed. Because his face run with WCW, sure, he was still pulling off, good matches, but he really wasn't doing anything. He was just the blonde-haired Chris Jericho who really just didn't connect with the audience. He was just a good guy, and they cheered for him because he was a good guy. That was really the only thing going for him. So that was a good year for him. Next year has to be 2000. 2000 was a great year for Chris Jericho, mainly because of his feud with Stephanie McMahon. That's the thing that put him over the top, and it got him to work with Triple H, who was basically the top of the company. With Austin hurt and with Taker hurt, you basically had Rock and Triple H, and Rock was the top heel. Triple H was the top heel. And you get a chance to work with the top heel, you're gonna get over. And Jericho got over big time this year, especially April 17th, 2000 in Penn State College, where Jericho actually beat Triple H in the opening match of Raw, and the crowd went nuts. You look back on that match, and when Earl Hebner counts 3 after the Lion Salt, the crowd goes insane. They friggin' lose it, and of course they reversed the decision, so Jericho actually doesn't win the title. But that might not have been the worst move in the world to keep him with the title. Because Jericho in the ring was ready, and as by that reaction, he was clearly in favor of the crowd. So whatever. That's my 2 cents on that. I think I have to put this year in by default, but 2001. This is kind of like a, honorable mention, just because he won his first world title here. This was also the start of his heel run, so that's a little plus. I'm going to give a slight bump in 2003, like the first part of 2003. Mainly just because his feud with Shawn Michaels, probably the best match of his career was with Shawn Michaels at WrestleMania 19. So I'm going to give a slight bump to 2003, just the very first couple of months. And then, in my opinion, his last peak year, and this will tie into his next question, Chris Jericho's single best year. I mean, statistically, it's got to be 2008. 2008 was just huge for Jericho. He completely reinvented himself. He wasn't Y2J. In June of 2008, he became the best in the world. When he smashed Shawn Michaels' head through the Jerichon 6000, he became the best in the world. He became someone new. And that was the reinvention of Chris Jericho. And statistically, he was in so many main events this year. He was the world heavyweight champion. I believe he won it, 2? Yeah, he won it 2 times. He won the world title twice in 2008. And honestly, the only time he had ever won 2 titles in 1 year, I believe, was 2001. And sure, one of those reigns was 2 weeks after he lost, 2 weeks after No Mercy 2001. Not the point. Statistically, I would say 2008 was Chris Jericho's best year. I mean, my personal favorite's 1998 and 2000, but I'd have to say Chris Jericho's single best year is 2008. And it's one of his peak years too, because that's when he reinvented himself. That's when he became the best in the world. That's, the Jericho that most fans know today was established in 2008. And then I'm going to give a little plus to 2012, 2013. Basically, his last couple runs. It's not a peak in the sense that it's helping his career, but it's a peak in the younger guy's career and the company's career. Just establishing Jericho as a utility veteran, and probably the best utility veteran they've had. Next question, if Owen Hart didn't die, do you think that would have been Jericho's first official feud? Maybe. I don't see that. I honestly don't see that happening, though. Even though I'd want it to happen, I don't think. I think if Owen Hart were still alive, he might have had a match with Jericho, but I don't think anything long term. I think Jericho's past would still have been the same had Owen Hart still been alive to this day. Jericho just kind of was floating around, and it was China that got his foot in the door, his feud with China that, got him noticed, and then it went to Stephanie McMahon. Would a feud with Owen Hart have been nice? Yes, it would have been awesome. It would have been awesome to see. They could have written the story themselves. They're both Canadian. Jericho was in the Hart Dungeon, so, what isn't there to do with that? So I don't think it would have been his first official feud. I think they might have held it off for a little bit. If anything, Owen Hart would have feuded with Edge or Benoit, in my opinion. I think those would have been the better options. Not necessarily saying Jericho would have had a bad feud with him, but I just think that they would have chosen someone like Benoit, Edge, or Christian, maybe. Your favorite Ric Flair match ever? Definitely his match with Sting at Clash of the Champions. The first one. The first Clash of the Champions. That 45-minute time limit draw match. That was an excellent match, in my opinion. 5-star classic. Wonderful, wonderful match. And, Ric Flair has had better matches, I'm not going to lie. His trio of matches with Steamboat in 1989 are amazing. His match with Terry Funk, just to name a few. But I always liked this match. I kind of like how it made Sting. This was really Flair putting over someone big time. And this is probably the biggest I've ever seen someone put over. He, literally made Sting on this match. It was aside from making one of the biggest wrestlers ever, this was also just a fantastic match, too. I can watch it any time and, prop my feet up and watch a 45-minute match, and I can never get tired of it. And it kind of ties in with your second question. Who's your favorite WCW wrestler of all time? Sting. Sting is definitely the third favorite wrestler of all time. He's only behind Shawn Michaels and Chris Jericho. Sting is actually the person who got me into wrestling, for those of you, all of you who don't know, because I've never said that. It basically started, my liking of professional wrestling all started with my brother, who was a huge WCW fan, buying that it's Sting Back in Black, that little video. It was like basically Sting's highlights of 1999, and I would watch that every single day. I'm not joking. I could recite it right now if you guys wanted me to. I know the dialogue. I know every single, I know that movie like the back of my hand. And one time when I was in Toys R Us, I remember this vividly. There was a Sting set, and I had a Sting mask, a Sting shirt, a baseball bat, and a world championship that had Sting's name on it. So that was and I would wear that all the time, and I'd have this big stuff, I think it was a big stuffed Pooh Bear, a Winnie the Pooh, and that would be my opponent, and every day I would pop the movie in, and I would wrestle Winnie the Pooh, pretending I was Sting and Winnie the Pooh was, Goldberg or Nash or DDP or Sid Vicious or Macho Man or whoever it was Sting was facing. That's who it was all the time. And I did that literally every day. I'm not lying. That was every day when I was 3 and 4. That was every day for me. Every single day. And again, I could recite that movie right now. I know every single part of it, even to this day. So Sting will always be my favorite. Alright, we are pro wrestling as of the big 4 pay-per-views. Survivor Series, WrestleMania, Royal Rumble, and SummerSlam. Which one do you think has lost the most prestige over the years? I was going to do a convoluted intro, but why should I even, bother trying to eliminate? We all know it's Survivor Series. It's just an obvious answer. Obviously, it's not WrestleMania, and obviously, it's not SummerSlam. You could say Royal Rumble, because I think the match kind of has lost prestige over the years, because, the winners have opened WrestleMania and not gotten the main event, but Royal Rumble is still a big deal. It's looked at as the start of WrestleMania, so, it's in no way, a B pay-per-view. But Survivor Series, oh my god, that really needs to get its shit together. It's bad. This past Survivor Series, it was a total phoned-in effort. It seemed no match really stuck out to me. And the thing that I really hate about Survivor Series is the classic Survivor Series match. I'm not saying every single one has to be this very dramatic, built-up story, but God, at least make it worth something. Nowadays, it's just alright, we're going to take 5 faces in the mid-card and 5 heels in the mid-card. We're going to smash them together and see what we get. That's what they've been. Prime examples, the Alliance versus Team WWF, that's how you book a classic Survivor Series match. Winner take all, it's a great match. Another one, more modern, is Stone Cold Steve Austin's team versus Eric Bischoff's team from Survivor Series 2003. That should have closed the show because that was one of the greatest classic Survivor Series matches I've ever seen, and it had a great ending. Stone Cold finally, kicks the bucket on his career, and it was a good match, and it was worth something. They did SmackDown vs. Raw in 2005, and SmackDown vs. Raw is kind of a cliche now, but back then it was still new and exciting. And 2004, they did that thing where it was the 4-on-4 elimination match, and it was like whoever won got to control Raw. Like, even something as simple as that is still better than just 5 faces and 5 heels clashing together. And it seemed that we were going to have a big classic Survivor Series match with like the Shield and the Wyatt family versus CM Punk, Daniel Bryan, the Rhodes brothers, and the Usos. And that's where I thought we were going with that Raw ending they had like maybe 2 weeks before Survivor Series, but they changed it up and they had Punk and Bryan take on the Wyatt family, and then they had the classic Survivor Series match we all know. I'm still happy for that classic Survivor Series match because Roman Reigns came out of his shell, in my opinion, but it was still, I still thought that 6-on-6 match would have been a lot better than what we got. And one could argue, oh, well, it's tradition that's 5-on-5. Who cares? They did in 2004 and it was 4-on-4. And really, like, what tradition are we honoring here? That traditional Survivor Series match is dead. No one cares about it anymore. It's not worth anything nowadays. Survivor Series doesn't. No one cares about Survivor Series. I can't remember the last time I was legitimately excited about Survivor Series. SummerSlam, WrestleMania, Royal Rumble, I still kind of get like that buzz, like, ooh, Big 4 pay-per-view. This is not a Big 4 pay-per-view anymore. It's not. They really have some work to do. They can't just fix it in a year. They've got to build it back up. They've got to make us love Survivor Series again. Because honestly, I don't care about it. Alright, enough of that. His next question is, are you a fan of kayfabe commentaries? Shoots, you shoot, timeline, etc. And if so, what are your favorites? I love kayfabe commentaries, dude. Like, kayfabe commentaries is the best. I love it. I really only watch guest booker. No, I'm sorry, not guest booker, YouTube, and timeline. You shoot and timeline. Yeah, sorry, screwing up here. My favorite you shoots. I like the both of the Jim Cornette ones. I really liked Xbox one, and the best was when he talked about the plane ride from hell. And the best line from that is when he's talking about the plane ride from hell, and he was saying how JBL knocked out Michael Hayes, and he was like, the rumor is JBL clocked him, knocked him out. He's like, I didn't see that part, but it sounds good. I don't know why I love that line so much, just the fact that Pac is definitely high when he's telling the story, and it's wonderful. Oh, and the Lillian Garcia Hobag moment, that everyone knows what I'm talking about there. What other great U-shoots? I liked Maria Kanellis' U-shoot. Sonny's was really good. I liked DDP's, and that was pretty much. And Shane Douglas. I liked his. Timelines. I liked Finley's. What other great timelines? Oh, I did watch the one with Sean Morley. That one was decent. I watched the one with Ivory. I liked that one. But the greatest timeline and the greatest kayfabe commentaries production ever is Timeline History of WWF 1997 with Jim Cornette. That is the greatest thing I've ever seen in my life. Jim Cornette is just a genius, and it's amazing. Like, him just talking for 3 hours never gets old, and I dare anyone to get bored while listening to him. And if wrestling bores you, his constant profanity will definitely keep you interested, because that's all he does is swear. And then guest bookers, I liked Al Snow's. That was really the only one I really watched, a good amount. Al Snow's was good, and then I watched Jim Cornette's. Other than that, I really don't watch any of them. I kind of am starting to watch those top fives they do, and I'm excited to watch, what's the new one that's coming? Oh, the most hated people in the wrestling business. That's definitely going to be good. Oh, and I can't wait to watch Vince Russo's timeline of 2000. That's going to be awesome. And his final question is the most underappreciated Chris Jericho matches. I was going to say some of his WCW stuff, matches like Juventud Guerrera, Eddie Guerrero, the match with Rey Mysterio, WCW stuff like that, Dean Malenko, another one. But if I'm going to pick one strand of matches, I'm going to say his feud he had in 2004 with Christian. Because 2004, Jericho really didn't do much. He really only feuded with Christian, and then when Christian was out, he feuded with Tomko and Trish, who were tied into Christian. He had like a brief feud with Edge. It was like a half feud. They really weren't at each other's throats, but it was, kind of like a half feud. But those matches, they're not classics, but they're very entertaining. I mean, I think their best match was their first one at WrestleMania 20. I think it's the most underrated match in WrestleMania history, that or Andre and Hogan. And then their ladder match at Unforgiven was pretty good. I think that was a good ladder match. Not the best ladder match ever, but, another good one. Their match at Backlash was the handicap match. That was also a good match. Their cage match on Raw, another great match. They really meshed together well, and they were a great tag team, but they were also just great opponents. So, and no one really talks about it as one of Jericho's, greatest feuds of all time. So I'll definitely put that in the underrated, underappreciated category. Power Spy in One Game says, what faction do you think is better, the Shield or the Wyatt family? I'm sorry, Wyatt family, but you don't stand a chance against the Shield. I'm sorry. The Wyatt family is cool, but the crowd, I don't know. I mean, I'm fully interested in Bray Wyatt and the Wyatt family, but when it comes to Bray Wyatt's matches, the crowds just seem dead. I mean, honestly, his match with Kane at SummerSlam was, I know that had a lot of negative reception. It was okay. It wasn't all that great. I wouldn't cite it as a good match, but, it worked out for me. And Rowan and Harper, they're basically just tokens for Bray Wyatt. It's basically Bray Wyatt, but the Shield is something that we haven't seen in such a long time, and that's a steady, consistent faction. Roman Reigns, Seth Rollins, and Dean Ambrose are all equals, and any of them could break away, and we would say, okay, they're ready, because they are all ready. But there's one specific thing about the Shield that I want to talk about, and I think a lot of people, they don't bash it, but they don't notice it, and that is Roman Reigns. No one talks about Roman Reigns, and I think I know why. It's because he wasn't Tyler Black and he wasn't Jon Moxley. I'm not saying I'm not blaming Smarks or indie darlings or, stuff like that. But I think just because Roman Reigns was a WWE project, people aren't really going to not like him as much, but just not talk about him as much. But there are some instances, like some nights when I see them wrestle, I think Roman Reigns is the best member of the Shield. Not to take anything away from Seth Rollins and Dean Ambrose. I mean, Dean Ambrose is my favorite one, but God, sometimes Roman Reigns is on fire, and Roman Reigns is everything WWE wants in a wrestler. He's got the look down, and he has that Samoan heritage. He's related to The Rock, to the Usos, he's got that Samoan family in him, and we all know that family goes far in wrestling. And he's got the strength behind him, and that demon roar he does, that's what I call it, the demon roar. Don't tell me you don't shake a little bit when you hear that. Roman Reigns is intense as hell, and I can't even explain it. Some days he is the best member of the Shield, and I wouldn't be surprised if he had the most success out of all of them. It's probably going to be Dean Ambrose who has the most success, because I think that's who WWE is behind the most. But if Roman Reigns had the most success, I would in no way be surprised. I think he has all the credentials to do it. He's got the ring work to do it, and he's great. I know I'm kind of, sucking up to Roman Reigns here, but Dean Ambrose and Seth Rollins are also great in their own right, and we don't need enough people to tell us that, because we have enough people. They were Tyler Black and they were Jon Moxley, and everyone in the world knows who they are. So they're a breath of fresh air to the WWE. All three of them are. And their concept, too, it may seem like, the old cliche, here come the heels from the crowd, but they've added a new dynamic to them, and this whole thing with the corporation, how they're the corporation guardians, very unique dynamic with them, and I like the Shield. The Shield is awesome, and I don't, of course, there's no one who doesn't like the Shield, but in my opinion, can't even be touched by any other staple in wrestling today, and even in the last couple of years. They are rivaling old staples like Generation X and NWO, in my opinion. And I know some people are going to say I'm wrong for saying that, but give it some time, maybe the Shield will break up in a year, or maybe they'll break up in 2 years. It doesn't matter. The Shield is consistent. And unlike Nexus, where they were hot for a little bit, but then WWE kind of killed their momentum, WWE has not killed the Shield's momentum at all. Even when they lose, they still look strong. And that's the sign that someone's really, really got something in them. So yeah, Shield, best stable in WWE for the last, what, 5-10 years? You could say. Denise Bell, 87, asks, is there one match from Japan that you would want to watch live? What would that match be? Well, there's a ton of matches from Japan I want to see live, basically because Japan wrestling kicks ass. Like, honestly, if you guys have not even watched one Japan match, they are awesome. Like, it's hard to explain because you feel like you're watching a US match, but it feels different in some way. Maybe it's the crowd, maybe it's the way they wrestle, I don't know. But if there was one match from Japan that I would want to watch live, there's a bunch, and I think I'm going to go Chris Jericho versus Chris Benoit from the Super J Cup 1995. I love that match. There's a lot of other Japan matches, especially from Chris Jericho, that I would like. The one with Ultimo Dragon. He had 2 matches that I've seen with Ultimo Dragon in Japan, and those 2 are really, really good. There are also like a lot of multi-man tag matches. There's a great tag match. I'm forgetting who was in it. Pardon me for forgetting, but I'd have to say that one. And don't forget Chris Benoit versus the Great Sasuke in the Super J Cup in 1994. But I'm going to go Lionheart versus Wild Pegasus, 1995 Super J Cup. Excellent match. One of their best encounters, I have to say. In my opinion, I know I might be overrating this, but 5 stars. I'm going to go full on 5 stars for this match. And, you know, maybe I am overrating it just a little bit, but I thoroughly enjoyed this match. It's crazy, and if you haven't seen it, I say definitely check it out. It's classic Benoit, classic Jericho. What more could you ask for? Next set of questions come from NatureBoy818, and his first question is, Chris Jericho match or feud that made him your favorite wrestler of all time? Honestly, I really don't know the answer to that question. That is a major problem. I don't know the answer at all. See, when I was younger, I really didn't base it off of who was a heel and who was a face. I basically just chose a few guys and made them my favorite. That's basically how it went. So if I had to think of one moment, I guess is the only moment I can really think where I thought Chris Jericho was cool, was SummerSlam 2003, the Elimination Chamber. I was still writing off Goldberg because, you know, I had only known WCW before going to WWE. So I really only went over there when I started watching around like late 2002, early 2003. So when I heard Goldberg was coming, I was so hyped because I could watch Goldberg. So Elimination Chamber 2003, Goldberg speared Chris Jericho through the chamber. And I remember thinking that was so awesome. That was so cool. And instead of liking Goldberg even more, I started to like Chris Jericho more than Goldberg just because Jericho got speared through a chamber. I don't know what my logic is behind that. I just thought that was so awesome. I'm like, all right, he's definitely one of my favorite wrestlers of all time because that was cool. I don't even understand that because wouldn't that make Goldberg just like my favorite wrestler ever if that was the case? I don't know. It confuses me, but I don't know. That's why I liked Chris Jericho so much. I'm sure there are other factors and I just don't remember them, but I was a weird kid when it came to liking certain wrestlers. I really didn't go off of who was a heel and who was a face. I mean, like, I hated Triple H when, like, in 2003, like, I hated Triple H so much, and you know, that might have just been Triple H being a good heel, but oh my god, I hated Triple H. He was like, I can't remember hating another wrestler as much as I hated Triple H in 2003. And that really wasn't me. Like, I'm not knocking Triple H as, like, you know, a smart fan or anything. I'm just saying, as a kid, I hated Triple H. You know, and he was just doing his job. Second question is, best wrestler that never won a world championship in WWF/E. I gotta go Owen Hart. And I think it's a travesty that Owen Hart never got a WWE title. Mainly because I think Owen, and, you know, this is my opinion, is equal to or greater than Bret Hart. In all honesty, the only difference is Bret Hart had the people behind him. Owen Hart, you know, it wasn't like he would come out to a dead response, because that's the worst reaction you can get. If a wrestler comes out and the crowd is dead, worst reaction. Even to a sea of boos is better. I mean, Owen Hart was over as a heel, you know, like when WrestleMania 10 rolled around, you know, when they announced, like, from Calgary, Alberta, Canada, and everyone started cheering, and then Owen Hart's music played, they booed him out of the arena, and of course Lawler, listen to that ovation, which is like my favorite Lawler quote ever, but it's besides the point. Owen Hart did have heat on him, and he, you know, he wasn't completely disregarded by the fans, but Bret Hart was simply just the bigger deal. He was more with the fans liked Bret more than Owen, that's a simple fact. Owen, in my opinion, is as good, if not better, of a wrestler than Bret Hart. And, he can put a sharpshooter just like Bret can. And he can wrestle just like Bret can. And it's a shame that he never got his title. And I think the biggest difference between Bret and Owen is mic skills. I mean, Owen Hart is not a legend on the mic, but he's better than Bret Hart. Then again, a lot of people are better than Bret Hart on the mic. Not knocking Bret Hart, I'm just saying, it's not that good on the mic. But Owen Hart was. And it's really, really a shame that Owen Hart didn't get a title shot. I mean, well, not a title shot, a title match. Hell, I would have just had him win the cage match. Like, God, if he had won the cage match, that would have been so awesome. That would have made that match even better than it already is. Again, I think it's the second best match in WWE history, but that cage match was off the charts. Absolutely epic match. And if Owen had won that, it would have been so much better, in my opinion. Even though I still rate it 5 stars regardless. Completely changed my view on it. It would have given a better view on it if Owen had won that. But I understand why they didn't put the title on Owen. Alright, favorite year of WWE of all time. It's kind of tough for me to pick that. Because, like, when I look back on it, like, the years I really weren't watching WWE were probably my favorite years. Maybe like 2000. I know that's cheating, but I have to say 2000. Chris Jericho started to become his own. So did Chris Benoit, and they made, future stars were breaking out, like Benoit, Guerrero, Jericho, Edge, Christian, Hardys. And then you had people on top like Triple H and The Rock who were really becoming their own. They were taking the absence. They were they were picking up the scraps that Austin and Taker left behind when they left for their injuries. So it really had a mark on Triple H and The Rock's career. I think 2000 was a great year overall. Not one pay-per-view was terrible, except for one pay-per-view, and that was WrestleMania 2000, which I still can't wrap my head around. How can every single... Even like Armageddon 2000 was decent, and if history has told me anything, every Armageddon pay-per-view just sucks. Like, honestly, every Armageddon pay-per-view was terrible, or just like below average at best. And this one was actually good because of that Hell in a Cell match. But, it sucks. Like, 2000 was just such a good year, but the WrestleMania was terrible. I hate WrestleMania 2000. It's such a stupid WrestleMania. Had some good matches on it, but my God, it was terrible. I hate WrestleMania 2000, which sucks. It's like, why? Because 2000 was such a good year. I'll say it's my favorite, but I'll probably change my mind, like, next week or something. So go with 2000 for now, and then ask me again in 3 weeks, and I'll probably change my mind. Next question, favorite feud in the Attitude Era. Now, disclaimer here, your next couple questions are about favorite feuds. When I say favorite, I do not mean it's the best. That being said, favorite feud in the Attitude Era, Undertaker, Kane. This could be a petition for best feud ever, because, let's face it, this was awesome. Epic debut from Kane. Could we see a debut that was even better? I doubt it, because Kane probably had one of the, if not the best debut of all time. And it was a great story too. Like, even though, like, if it happened today, internet fans, and not even just internet fans alike would just be crapping all over this feud, but it happened back then, and it was well received. And, like, those chilling things from Paul Bearer, like, your brother Kane is coming, And then when he debuted, Vince McMahon, that's gotta be Kane, that's gotta be Kane. Like, how can you not mark out at those moments, even though we're, 16 years removed from it? 15? Whatever. Anyway, I'm 15 years removed from the match, 16 from the debut. Alright, anyway, I'm getting off topic here. Great match, great payoff, The matches in 1998 were great, especially the WrestleMania match, in my opinion, Kane's best match ever, and a good match for The Undertaker. A well-booked story, and build-up, too. Kane debuted in October, and their blow-off match was at WrestleMania. You had 5 months to work with that. And it's like, you can't see WWE do something like that today. My God, they're done with an angle by 2 months at the most. And to build this up for around 5-6 months, is absolutely mind-boggling. And it's crazy. And it was a great, great feud. One of the best of the Attitude Era. Then you said favorite feud of the Ruthless Aggression Era. This is going to be the feud that I was most emotionally invested into, as I've previously stated. and that is Chris Jericho and Christian and that Trish love triangle. You can include Lita too. I loved that storyline when they were trying to figure out who could sleep with Trish or Lita first. My God, it was awesome. I was so emotionally invested into that storyline. It wasn't even wrestling anymore. It was a TV show. Like, as bad as that sounds, as bad as I don't as much as I don't want to say that, I was emotionally invested into that. And when I saw all the dirty-handed things Christian was doing to try and sneak around with Trish, and when Christian turned on Chris Jericho and slammed him into the wall and everything after he was talking to Trish on the phone, and after Christian was a total jackass and put the walls of Jericho on Trish, I was like, you hated Christian here, and it was a great WrestleMania match. I think it's a very underrated WrestleMania match, as I've previously stated. Definitely, if not my favorite feud of all time, but one of the favorites of the Ruthless Aggression era. Favorite feud of the New Generation era, without a doubt, Shawn Michaels, Bret Hart. I know it kind of spilled over in 1997, which started the Attitude Era, but Bret Hart was gone before the Attitude Era really started getting rolling. So I'll count this towards New Generation, but can you remember a feud that was so personal? Because this feud felt real. It felt like a war. Were you with Shawn Michaels or were you with Bret Hart? And hell, they turned it into a nation war. In Canada, you booed Shawn Michaels and you cheered Bret Hart, and in the USA, you booed Bret Hart and you cheered Shawn Michaels. This wasn't even a feud. This was a war. That was the beauty behind this feud. This was a great feud with great matches too. Who can forget the Iron Man match? And I don't want to sound like a jerk, but if Shawn Michaels wasn't a dick and Bret Hart didn't respond to his dickish moves, this feud would not have been as entertaining as it is. Going back and watching that 2-hour interview on that DVD they put out with Bret Hart and Shawn Michaels, if that stuff didn't happen, I'm sure this feud would still be good, but it's even better knowing all the backstage drama that was going behind the scenes with Bret Hart and Shawn Michaels. Great feud. And favorite feud of the PG era, again, no-brainer, CM Punk, John Cena. CM Punk's pipe bomb was just a mind-boggling experience for me. It was crazy. I had never seen anything like that. I guess the last time I really saw something like that was when Joey Styles quit in 2005. But 2005, I was probably in second grade, maybe second or third grade. And I really didn't understand a lot of the things he was saying. But I knew he was trying to rebel against the WWE. But still, I really hadn't seen anything like that, or at least knew what was going on. And even though it was a worked shoot, the Joey Styles one, it was a worked shoot, but they had everyone fooled. It felt real. I doubt there were people who were oh yeah, this is totally another one of WWE's ploys. It's we all knew that eventually, but the moment he started talking, it felt real. And I guess that's what makes a feud a great feud. I was said with Bret Hart and Shawn Michaels, this felt like a war, and John Cena really was just representing the WWE. It was really CM Punk versus the WWE, with John Cena being the placeholder for WWE. He was just the person they threw in against him. So, just symbolism too. You have CM Punk, who's the outcast, the guy they don't want to make the top star. Then you have John Cena, the company boy, and he's going to fight for his company that has been tarnished by CM Punk. It's great psychology behind it, which is what makes this feud so great. So I'll definitely put that as my favorite feud of the PG era. Alright, Brent Young asked the following questions. I'm going to kind of cheat with them, though. For questions 1 and 4, you asked, what do you think is the most disappointing pay-per-view in WWE and the most disappointing WrestleMania? That was question 4. I'm going to kind of combine both because my most disappointing pay-per-view is a WrestleMania. So, to make it up to you, I'll pick 2 pay-per-views that I found extremely disappointing that were both WrestleManias. First has got to be, the runner-up has got to be WrestleMania 27. The card didn't look as strong as maybe 26, but I still thought we had a good show on our hands. I thought Orton and Punk were going to have a great match. I thought, Mysterio and Cody Rhodes could have a great match. I was expecting Edge and Del Rio to have a great match, and I thought Miz and John Cena might not be the best main event ever, but I thought they could at least do something out of it. And Triple H Undertaker, I had high expectations for that. Honestly, though, looking back on it, Triple H and Undertaker exceeded my expectations by far. I'm not going to say it was a 5-star classic, but they exceeded my expectations. And Ray and Cody had a great match. I do like their match. However, there were just so many problems with this show. I did not like this show. I was very disappointed, especially because I liked 26 so much. I thought they were going to ride off of that momentum. But I I have to say I was disappointed with this Mania. The curtain jerker is the world heavyweight title. Like, what is that? And they did this to Sheamus too the following year. But like the Royal Rumble winner is supposed to get the main event championship match at WrestleMania, not an 11-minute curtain jerker. The match wasn't terrible, but I feel like it could be better if they had more time to do stuff because it was starting to like get somewhere and then they had to kill it because the opener really can't exceed more than 11 minutes, which is what this match was. Just stupid in my opinion. And the multi-man tag matches, they weren't. I'm not going to say they were terrible because if they'd gone on longer than the time they did, they could have been something terrible. Like the core match, who even remembered the core? Like, looking back on it, that stable was hilarious because no one remembers them at all. Like, I totally forgot about them until I thought of WrestleMania 27 again. And the match with Snooki, she was just there as a celebrity. And it sucks that Ziggler and John Morrison were subjected to that, and they didn't get their own match. I made that mock WrestleMania 27 card on the last pay-per-view, and I don't pride myself on being a great, booker of wrestling because I don't know the first thing about it, but God, I think my card looked a lot better than the WrestleMania 27 card. And don't forget Orton and Punk. I am still disappointed about that match. I mean, some people might like it, some people might say it's better than what I think, but honestly, I think it was very disappointing. They really didn't do anything, especially Orton. He really did not step his game up. And this was a time where, around 2011, I wasn't really all that high on Randy Orton. It was like around 2010, 2011, I really did not care about Randy Orton. I would soon care about him again later down the road, but at this point, I was not feeling Randy Orton. And Punk, too, I really didn't care about Punk either. I mean, that would change in a couple months when he dropped the pipe bomb, but at this point, Punk wasn't doing anything, Orton wasn't doing anything. I think they just kind of had a phoned-in effort. They really didn't do anything at all, and it was disappointing for me. And the one that instantly came to mind, that was the runner-up, but the most disappointing pay-per-view for me by far is WrestleMania 18. I heard nothing but great things about this WrestleMania. People were saying it was, top 10 of all time. And when I was younger, I'd heard about all the things people were saying about it on the internet, like, oh my God, this is such a good WrestleMania. Check it out if you haven't seen it. And I was like, oh my gosh, this WrestleMania is going to be awesome. I looked at the card and it looked great. And I watched it and it's nothing. Like, it's nothing spectacular. It's an okay show. I mean, it's nothing terrible, but the matches were just blah. They were bland. I really didn't care about them. Most of the matches were super short, so the moment they started getting somewhere, they had to kill it immediately. That was the case with RVD and William Regal, DDP and Christian, and Edge and Booker T. Like, those matches really didn't have anything great going for them. Kurt Angle and Kane was an okay match. I liked it. It wasn't that bad. And match of the night for me is Taker and Ric Flair. That was definitely the best match on the show. The tag team match, that just went on forever. It just felt like it went on forever. It was a lot longer than most of the matches. They did not need to make that like 14 minutes. They could have shaved some minutes off of that and given it to the other matches that needed it. The main event with Jericho and Triple H first of all, it shouldn't have been on the main event because everyone was there to see Rock and Hogan. They really seemed lost in that match. They had a better match in the next, 2 months from now at Judgment Day. They had a great Hell in a Cell match. And they had a good match at Fully Loaded. And those matches were 10 times better than this. They just seemed lost. They seemed to have no idea where they wanted to go with the match. Jericho seemed lost. Triple H I think Jericho was more lost than Triple H. Jericho kind of just had nowhere to go. And Jericho's whole first title run, while it was okay, it was kind of lackluster, just the way they made him look. He just made him look like a complete tool, complete idiot over the last couple times of the storyline. And really, the main event was Triple H versus Stephanie McMahon. Jericho was just the bodyguard of Stephanie McMahon, basically. That's what this really was. The crowd really marked out when Triple H went after Stephanie. So it's like, that was the real draw. Jericho was just in the background. And Rock and Hogan, again, you guys, I don't understand why I don't like this match, because I'll defend Andre and Hogan till the end of time, saying this match is a great moment. You don't understand. But for some weird reason, I don't like Rock and Hogan. I don't even understand why I don't like it, because it seems like I would, considering how much I love Hogan and Andre. But I don't know. It's just every time I watch it, I just feel the sense of boredom come over me. And I don't think it's my attention span or anything. I just don't care. And I mean, you can say the crowd made the match. A crowd can make a match better, but it can't make a match. Like when I watch Hogan and Andre, I am fully into the match. I like the match. But these, I don't really care about it. I don't care about this match at all. And to me, that was the most disappointing match I had ever seen in my life, just because of all the hype behind it that I'd heard from people, that I'd seen from WWE TV shows. And it was nothing, really. I didn't really care about it. Anyway, moving on. I've ranted enough. The most disappointing storyline in WWE. I'm going to go Nexus. Basically because I was alive for Nexus. I could say the Invasion, but I really wasn't watching WWE at the time. So the Invasion is just a black eye for me. Like, it's just something that I know was bad. But the Nexus, I saw them rise and I saw them fall. And when they made their debut, it was like a holy shit, what is going on? Because 2010, WWE was still dead set on, the very, like, straightforward PG, setting. And these guys just went balls to the wall crazy, destroying everyone in sight. They, destroyed all the announcers. They destroyed Cena. They tore up the ring. Daniel Bryan chokes Justin Roberts with his tie, and then he gets fired, but that's besides the point. And then the 7 of them continue on their rampage. They destroy everyone in sight. They had a cool entrance theme. I did like the Nexus entrance theme. They go against 7 WWE guys at SummerSlam, and they lose. And that was it. They were done. They had so much potential, and it's all gone. They really dropped the ball so quickly. And I'm not going to say it again because everyone else has already said it. So it's basically beating a dead horse. But they dropped the ball with the Shield. It's very, very obvious that they did. Did they have a lack of faith in him? Maybe. And I mean, just look where they are now. Michael Tarver's gone. Heath Slater's in 3MB. And as much as he's a jobber now, I still like Heath Slater. 3MB is the best. I like him. Who else was in there? Justin Gabriel, just superstars wrestler. He hasn't really done anything big. I think Heath Slater and Justin Gabriel are both talented guys. Are they future world champions? Probably not, but talented guys. I think that deserve a little bit better. David Otunga, he's the law attorney. All right, Wade Barrett. Is Wade Barrett? Where is Wade Barrett? Is he injured? I don't even know. He just came back from an injury about a couple months ago. Where is he? I don't know. Did I miss something? I don't know. But I do like Wade Barrett. Who am I missing? See, I can't even remember the guys in the Nexus. Daniel Bryan, obviously, is, top of his game. One of the most over guys, the most over guy in the company. Skip Sheffield, let's not forget him. He's now Ryback. So he's, been having a decent time. But, who cares about the Nexus anymore? And they gave him to CM Punk. They brought in Husky Harris and Michael McGillicuddy, who are now Curtis Axel and Bray Wyatt. So they've made names for themselves outside of the Nexus. But the Nexus really, everyone's success really, with the exception of Wade Barrett, no one wrote off the success of the Nexus. They all just kind of crumbled apart. Wade Barrett was the unofficial leader, so he kind of had some credibility when the Nexus disbanded. But, they didn't have anything. They gave him to CM Punk, and he couldn't do anything, because that's like, I can't even think of a metaphor. But they basically just gave him nothing. God, I'm taking a really long time saying all this stuff. All right, anyway, the most disappointing Hell in a Cell match, easily Big Boss Man, Undertaker, WrestleMania 15. I think it's just the fact that it's Undertaker, you think Undertaker Hell in a Cell match, that goes together like peanut butter and jelly. You think it would be a great match, but no, it was terrible. And don't even get me started on the lynching. Like, what the hell was that? You're going to hang someone at your biggest show of the year? Like, the Brood is going to descend after the match and hang the Big Boss Man. Like, what the hell is that? That was completely stupid. Stupid match and stupid concept. I mean, not stupid concept, stupid ending. And if anyone says that there's a Hell in a Cell match that's worse than this one, not at all. This is the worst Hell in a Cell match of all time. If you take away In Your House Canadian Stampede, what do you think is the best In Your House pay-per-view? I'm going to say In Your House Final 4. I always liked that pay-per-view. That pay-per-view was great. The main event was awesome, but the main reason I like it is because I was always fond of Fatal 4-Way matches. I don't even know why. But I always liked Fatal 4-Ways, and the one with Austin, Brett, Vader, and Taker was a great match, and they had others on the show, but that was the main event. But I always liked Fatal 4-Way matches. Triple threats were great. I like them too. But I don't know why. There's something about Fatal 4-Way matches that are just cool to me. Maybe it's any gimmick or no gimmick. I always like to see. I wish they would do more, because like, I think the last great Fatal 4-Way matches, there was the one at Over the Limit 2012. Like, I really liked that one. That match was great. And another one I liked was the one from Night of Champions 2011. I believe it was John Morrison, Dolph Ziggler, and then I want to say Jack Swagger, and I can't remember the other person. It's escaping me right now. But that was another great Fatal 4-Way. And the thing about Fatal 4-Ways is they're always, so bounce off the wall energy. They're always so much fun to see. I always liked Fatal 4-Way matches. So that one, match quality wise, is good. But for more sentimental reasons, I'll pick that one. The best No Mercy pay-per-view ever, easily 2002. I know some people might say 2001, or maybe another No Mercy pay-per-view is better, but 2002, easily. Main reason, you got Brock and Undertaker in the Hell in a Cell. Fantastic Hell in a Cell match. One of the best Hell in a Cell matches I've ever seen. And it proved Brock can go toe-to-toe with The Undertaker in Hell in a Cell. And Brock was still, he was 7 months into the company? 6 months into the company? Something ridiculous like that. And absolutely insane match. Taker bled a ton. He was like a sink out there. He was just dripping blood. And even Heyman bled, I think. I think he, got slammed into the cage, too. And a good match. And besides the blood, it was a great match. But the real highlight of the show for me is the tag team match with Angle and Benoit versus Rey Mysterio and Edge. Fantastic tag team match. You will never see a better tag team match in the WWE than that one. And mark my words, even if I do see a better tag team match, I will not believe it. This is the greatest tag team match WWE has ever done. And in my opinion, second best tag team match ever. Only behind Eddie Guerrero and Love Machine and El Hito Tel Santo and Octagon at When Worlds Collide. That is the only tag team match that is better than this one. That's just to show you how great this match is. 5 stars, without a doubt. One of the best matches in the company's history. Excellent match. And, this pay-per-view is kind of scarred with the whole Katie Vick storyline, because that's where the Kane Triple H match, this is the pay-per-view where it took place, and we were murdered with this terrible storyline. But at least this storyline is funny when you look back on it, and the match isn't all that bad for me. If you take the story out of the match, it's a very decent, not even decent, it's a good Kane Triple H match. Pretty good, nothing spectacular, but I did like the match. And there were also some other good moments on this card, like Jamie Noble and Tajiri. It was a good match. And then Chris Jericho and Christian versus Booker T and Goldust, another good match. So yeah, great pay-per-view. In your opinion, what do you think is the greatest pro wrestling match in the USA? Again, easy answer for me. Ric Flair versus Ricky Steamboat at Clash of the Champions. And Ric Flair, Ricky Steamboat at the Chinatown Rumble. And Ric Flair and Ricky Steamboat at Wrestle War 1989. That trio of matches are absolutely phenomenal. You will never see any other match that is better than that. Those two were unbelievably... They had unbelievable chemistry in the ring. They could work like no one else could. That trio of matches is... You will never see anything better. If I had to pick one, I'd have to say the Clash of the Champions one is my favorite. And other people say Wrestle War, and that one's fine too. I think that one could easily be considered the best. But those trio matches are untouchable. Nothing could ever beat those. And yeah, in the USA, I really can't think of anything else. If I think of all the other great company matches, maybe Daniel Bryan versus Kenta Kobashi. I love that match. Shawn Michaels versus Razor Ramon. Again, I think that's the WWE's greatest match ever. Stuff like that, but untouchable, in my opinion. That trio of matches is untouchable at all costs. What do you think is the best women's match in the USA? Now, honestly, I don't really, aside from WWE, I don't really know a lot of women's matches. I don't really watch TNA. I know Gail Kim and Taryn Terrell had a great ladder match. I did see that, and that was a fantastic match. But I also love Lita and Trish from Raw in December of 2004, where Lita wins the world title. not the world title, the women's title. The match is short. It's only about like maybe 7 or 8 minutes, but it's a fantastic match. It's a great match. I think it's an excellent, like just full on balls to the wall crazy. They really laid it all out for 7 minutes. And this was the main event of Raw. I mean, I know main event of Raw doesn't have a lot of high prestige to it, but when you're in the women's division, that is a huge ass deal. You don't see when was the last time you've seen a women's match main event a show? And you could say, oh, well, the women have had a match that was the last match on the show, but I'm talking about the closing segment. There was no contract signing after this match. This was the go-home moment for this Raw. And the crowd went absolutely insane, because this was Lita's, in Lita's hometown. And it was a great match. And the one they had at Unforgiven 2006 was also good, but I don't like it as much as this one. What do you think of the invasion angle back in 2001? Again, I don't want to beat a dead horse. I don't want to say everything that everyone else has said. I will say this, it made for some good matches. It had good pay-per-views and good matches. I will say that much. But the storyline in and of itself, it was unbelievable. You know, like and I don't mean that in a good way. No one believed that the WCW wrestlers such as Shawn Stasiak and Hugh Morris, like those people weren't gonna take over WWE. They didn't have Sting. They didn't have Goldberg. They didn't get Nash and Hall till later, and they were long past their prime there. But they had nothing. They had a bunch of their Deborah's cookies were more over than any member of the Alliance that wasn't from the WWE. They threw Stone Cold Steve Austin over there. They threw Kurt Angle over there. They threw Christian over there. They just threw like so many WWE guys that they needed to have some credibility towards it. That's when you know you have a problem. And don't even get me started on Booker T versus was it Buff Bagwell? Yeah. Wait, or was it Disco Inferno? No. It was Booker T versus Buff Bagwell. There we go. That's what it was. That match was absolutely insanely horrible. So, you know, terrible moments. But 2001 brought some entertaining moments, like, you know, when Kurt Angle sprayed the milk truck. And I believe, wasn't the supermarket brawl during this time, too? That's a great moment, too, with Booker T and Stone Cold Steve Austin. If it's not, we don't have to count it. But it did give some great matches. You know, the Survivor Series match, Kurt Angle versus Stone Cold Steve Austin from SummerSlam 2001, you know, just to name a few. Great matches from it. Great pay-per-views from it. Just the storyline was atrocious. The best year of the WWF, I've answered this before, 2000, 1998. Either one of those two are probably the best years. Probably had the most booming periods of fans, you know, people. That was a cool time to like wrestling. Good feuds, good matches, you know, the works. The best Armageddon pay-per-view? Alright, I don't even know why you would ask that, because every Armageddon pay-per-view just sucks. Like, every Armageddon pay-per-view is just flat out terrible. I've seen every Armageddon pay-per-view, and I basically hate all of them. I can't stand all of them. But if there's one that's bearable, it's 2000. Basically because you had Kane and Chris Jericho in the Last Man Standing match, and you had the Hell in a Cell match. Those things saved the show. Everything else was pretty either decent to horrible, and that's the same for every other Armageddon pay-per-view. I don't even know what you're trying to achieve with this question. Other sides making me pick. It's like making me pick my least favorite food and putting all my least favorite foods out there. Like, which one is the least horrible? But I will say Armageddon 2000, because it has the Hell in a Cell match that I like, and it has Kane and Chris Jericho, which was a great Last Man Standing match. And finally, the best Jericho-Benoit match in your opinion. I've touched on this before. Not hating on you or anything, but I'm just saying I've touched on this before. Jericho and Benoit from Royal Rumble 2001 in the ladder match. One of the best ladder matches ever, in my opinion. 5 stars. I know I might be overrating it. A lot of people don't usually rate 5 stars for this match, but in my opinion, it deserves it. Probably the best. I would say the third best, only behind Shawn Michaels and Razor Ramon from WrestleMania 10. And Edge and Christian versus the Hardys at No Mercy 1999. Great match here. Both guys really pulled out all the stops to make this match great. You had a lot of great spots. And, you know, what more could you want? You know, it's a great match. And what I liked about it is they only used one ladder. You know, you see like a lot of ladder matches today. Like, you have like 60 ladders being thrown into there. But they only used one ladder, and they focused more on wrestling than just high spots, which was great. They had a nice balance, which is rare to find in ladder matches these days. Right, and the final set of questions after this grueling Q&A, because my god, it took me forever to get it out, come from Wondrich. His first question is, do you think it's a real shame an awesome WrestleMania such as WrestleMania 19 drew such a poor buy rate? The estimated number is 550,000. Now, I believe WrestleMania 19 is the greatest WrestleMania of all time. Now, arguably, there are some better WrestleManias. Some people say 17. Some people will say 3. Some people would even say like 24, 14. All great WrestleManias, but 19 will always be my favorite. However, I really can't. I'm not surprised that it drew such a poor buy rate, and I'm not really shocked either. Because while the event was good, it really didn't have a lot going for it. I mean, it did have main event matches, and the stories behind the matches were good, but compared to other manias, the ones before it and after it, they really kind of lacked. I mean, WrestleMania 18, which in my opinion is nowhere near as good as WrestleMania 19. In my opinion, I think WrestleMania 18 is probably the most overrated thing. I mean, I've already said that in this video, but still, overrated WrestleMania. That match had Hogan and Rock. Like, Hogan and Rock, you can't top that. Like, that's going to sell tickets right then and there. That match had the big clincher. WrestleMania 17, I think that the buy rate was still good for that. I don't think it was kind of low like this one. You had Rock Austin too. You had also big matches. WrestleMania 20 was also a huge buy rate. I think that just had to do with the 20th anniversary, Madison Square Garden. You had a big main event going. So I think WrestleMania 19, it was in Safeco Field in Seattle, Washington, and I'm not bashing Washington State or Safeco Field, but it's kind of, I don't want to say an obscure location, but it is kind of, not as well known. Safeco, I bet if I said Safeco Field, only, baseball fans and just general knowledge will know that it's in Seattle. I don't think it's a very well-known location. Let's just put it that way. It's not like, Madison Square Garden or, MetLife Stadium, which was in WrestleMania 29. But the match, they did have stuff going for it, but I think the saving grace thing, the reason why most people bought it was Austin Rock 3. And that wasn't the main event, it was Brock and Kurt. And that was a great main event as well, and I can see why people would have hype over it. I mean, I'm sure pure wrestling fans and technical wrestling fans really, really wanted to see that match, and it was a great match. Shawn Michaels and Chris Jericho was, in my opinion, the best match of the night, but that really wasn't even marketed as a main event. The 4 main events were Triple H and Booker T, Hogan and McMahon, Austin Rock 3, and Kurt Angle and Brock Lesnar. And this isn't a bad thing for me to say, but the best match of the night wasn't a main event match. It was an important match, and I think it got the most time out of all the matches. I don't know, Brock and Kurt might have gotten more time, but I think this match probably got the most time out of all of them. It got around like 23 minutes. It was kind of the main event for the undercard, and it was the match that they really didn't even need to hype as a main event. It was just Jericho and Michaels going at it, so people knew it was going to be a good match. But, it doesn't surprise me that it got such a poor buy rate. The main event matches were good, but they were good in the ring. On paper, it was like, oh, those are probably going to be good, but it's nowhere near as good as Austin and Rock will be. Hogan and Rock will be. I don't blame them. 2, what was your opinion on the Chris Jericho Trish Christian storyline of 2003-2004? I've said this on numerous occasions. I love that storyline. That storyline was so awesome. It was my first OTP, and I didn't even know about it. When I was younger, this storyline took place when I was around, first grade. I was so into this thing. I was more into this than any other storyline. And it drove me crazy when I could see Christian trying to sneak around Jericho and try to get with Trish. Oh, God, it killed me on the inside because I knew everything and Trish didn't know any of it. And then at WrestleMania 20, when she turned on Chris Jericho, that was it for me. I was done. The feelings were out of control, and my first OTP was shattered. And it became Trish and Christian. They were the new power couple. It was like, what are you doing, Trish? Jericho wants to be with you. He loves you, not Christian. But that was an emotional roller coaster for me. I loved that storyline, and obviously I didn't pick up on all the innuendos of the storyline because I was only in first grade. But I really did enjoy that storyline. And you know, it's a shame that they don't do love angles anymore. I know some people might think it's stupid, but honestly, I love love angles. I don't know why. It always seemed to find its place in wrestling at a perfect time. I don't know why they don't do any more stuff like that. I can't remember the last time they did something like that. It might have been this storyline. I'm not 100% sure. They did kind of, the only thing I can kind of remember, and this is a really obscure storyline to remember, but I think back in like maybe 2010, 2011, Drew McIntyre was trying to convince Kelly that he was like a good person or something like that. That's the last love angle I can remember. You know, one of you will probably enlighten me on it, but you know, that's all I can remember. But no, Jericho, Trish, Christian, excellent storyline. I loved the storyline. And that brought in Tomko, and that became Christian's problem solver. And then too many great moments. And the highlight reel where Jericho just verbally destroyed Trish. Like, that was amazing. Wasn't Babe a talking pig? And of course, that's another thing. That highlight reel, I didn't even get it when I was younger. I just knew he was making fun of her. But now that I understand everything. They say Kurt Angle sucks. Like, I didn't get that joke at all. I guess they were just saying, like, oh, Trish sucks. She turned on. That's what I was thinking. That was my first grade mind, but now I'm kind of getting it. But absolutely fantastic storyline. Next question. Do you think Cody Rhodes has what it takes to break out and be a main eventer? Absolutely. Absolutely. I have been a supporter of Cody Rhodes all this time, and it's kind of weird because when Legacy broke up, when I watched WrestleMania 26 and I saw that triple threat match with DiBiase, Rhodes, and Orton, I honestly thought both guys were going to make it, but I honestly thought DiBiase was going to be the bigger star. And how wrong I was. DiBiase really didn't. I feel bad for DiBiase because he really didn't have anything going for him. They gave him Maurice one time, and that really, that was it. Like, his thing with Maurice was the only thing. And then Cody Rhodes got the dashing Cody Rhodes gimmick, and then he was off. And I think he's had a great career, and he has a bigger career even lined up for him. And I shouldn't say he's carrying this division, because that's the wrong word to use. He is a prime supporter of the tag team division. And the tag team division has been a big source of criticism for the WWE. And look at it now. It's the best part of the show. Tag team matches are all of a sudden the in thing. You got great teams, and the tag team champions are Cody Rhodes and Goldust. And I got a whole video on Goldust ready to go, because I'm going to talk about Goldust, because that's unbelievable. Second off, Cody Rhodes and his face turn. That's another thing that saved his career. Heel Cody Rhodes was fine, but I really think he's finding everything he needs to find as a face. He's becoming everything he needs to become as a face. And I don't know, when I listen to some people talk about wrestling, they always seem like heels are the way to go. But Cody Rhodes has proven us wrong. He can be both heel and a face, but my God, he needs to keep this face run. I don't see any reason why he should turn heel, but he is, to me, one of those guys who can pull off face and heel very well. And it does take true talent to make face and heel effective, to do both of them, but in my opinion, it takes even bigger talent to be over as a face and still have the support of everyone. And when I say everyone, I mean every type of fan, because Cody Rhodes is well liked among the really smart fans, and he's well liked among the casual fans. And you know, that's what I notice with most faces, is most faces seem to go down the toilet once they become a face. Like, you know, no one seems to care about him anymore. Big example is Sheamus. I understand Sheamus was partially shoved down our throats by the WWE, but when he was a heel, people were so into him, and then he turned into a face, and sure, he was beating everyone in sight, and I will not deny that, but he was, the fans turned on him. They didn't care about him. I mean, casual fans did, but the smart fans, they didn't care about him. But, you know, I'm sure WWE can care less. But Cody Rhodes has great in-ring ability. He's leading this tag team division. I think that's a good word, leading. He's leading the tag team division. He's tag team champions with his brother, who's on the comeback of a lifetime. And overall, he's just a good guy, you know? And, like, he's got the physique that WWE wants. He's got the charisma. He can do anything. He's a great worker, and he deserves all the most of success in 2014, and I hope he gets it. Next question. Who had the best debut match in WWF/E? Now, it's a good thing that my computer lost this audio file, because I had previously recorded this, but I've thought of this, and I have two answers. One is match quality wise. If like we're doing like a star rating match quality wise, the best debut match in my opinion was Daniel Bryan. His first match against Chris Jericho was great. It was an amazing match, but I am not going to say that's the greatest debut match of all time. It was a great match, and honestly a kick-ass match for only being like, what was it, like 8 minutes? Kick-ass match. But I'm not going to give that as my answer. I'm going to say the greatest debut match ever was Chris Jericho versus Fandango at WrestleMania 29. Who else can say they had their debut match at WrestleMania? I'm trying to think. There probably was, and I can't think of it right now. But point is, well, even if it was their debut match, they went against a big-time veteran like Chris Jericho, someone who's well-liked among everyone. Everyone loves Chris Jericho. And oh my god, the stupid phone. Hold on. I hate the phone. Anyway, yeah, that phone, the phone strikes again. You know, I'm sorry, guys. Where was I? Now I've lost my train of thought. Damn it, phone. All right, anyway. Who else can say they've had their debut match at WrestleMania? You know, that's a big feat in and among itself. And you go against Chris Jericho and you win. And it was a pretty damn good match. I know a lot of people like kind of bashed it a little bit, but it was a good match for his debut match. And I know it's not technically his debut match because he was Johnny Curtis beforehand, but it was the debut match of the Fandango character. So I'm going to count it. Best debut match, Fandango. Next question: if TNA folded, pick 5 guys from the TNA roster to join WWE and give us a brief outline of how you'd use them. All right, so I don't watch TNA that much. I'm going to be totally honest. However, I have fought through, and I will decide what I'm going to do. First person I'm going to draft, even though they said they would never work in WWE again, is the lady herself, Gail Kim. Yes, I would use Gail Kim, perfect opponent for AJ Lee, perfect contender for the Divas Championship, and a perfect woman to help AJ Lee revitalize the Divas division. Because, let's face it, you got the Total Divas thing going on, but the only person who's really kind of bringing any change to it is AJ Lee. And, you know, there are some talented wrestlers, you know, Tamina, Naomi, Natalia, you know, great wrestlers like that. But, you know, she's the only one who's really making people care. And I feel like Gail Kim can help her and even maybe take her spot, make people care even more. There have been rumors of Mickie James coming around, and I would be fine with the Mickie James return too. But I think Gail Kim would be a perfect opponent. And if she went back to that old gimmick she had, it was kind of like that Matrix kind of thing, where she would come out in like that jacket and everything. I really thought that was a cool gimmick. When she came back in like 2010, 2009, she just had this generic music and everything. I thought that music she had and that Titantron she had really set her apart. And, you know, that's what AJ Lee did. She set herself apart. She's a lot different than a lot of the divas we usually see. So I think Gail Kim would make a great opponent for her and just a great competition for her, not just in the ring, but outside the ring, to try and make the Divas division better. Who's going to become the face of it? And I feel like that would drive all the other divas, even AJ Lee, who's right now the queen of divas, to try and step up the division. So definitely Gail Kim. Next person I would draft is a man by the name of Kurt Angle. Yes, I would draft Kurt Angle because I want him to finish his career in WWE. Kurt Angle has had a storied career. He has battled a lot of demons, but I believe he should finish his career in WWE with guys like Punk, guys like Daniel Bryan, and even guys like Orton he could wrestle again, and maybe even up-and-comers like Cesaro, Swagger. I mean, Swagger, Angle, that could be a great match, and same thing with Cesaro. I mean, great matches like that, and I would definitely enjoy Kurt Angle finishing his career in WWE. I think it would be good for him. Maybe get some guys over, maybe get a good WrestleMania match to send him out, and put him in the Hall of Fame. You know, even though he's spent a lot of his career in TNA, I don't see that there should be a reason why he shouldn't go in the Hall of Fame. He did a lot in 6 years with the company, so he deserves one more run. Now I'm going to send one more man over, and that man is Austin Aries. Again, another ROH wrestler, another indie wrestler, another internet darling. A lot of people love Austin Aries, and he can pick up where he left off in ROH. Get him with matches with Punk, because his matches with Punk were absolutely phenomenal. I definitely draft Austin Aries over, and again, have him face other guys. Have him, you know, bring up some other ROH wrestlers. Bring up El Generico or Sami Zayn, whatever you want to call him. I think, you know, good matches with him, good matches with Bryan, and have him go against Cena. Have him go against Orton. Have him, you know, if Jericho wants to have a go with him, send him against Jericho. That sounded kind of weird, but whatever. And again, other wrestlers. Cesaro, I mean, he's familiar with Cesaro. Swagger, other good wrestlers. So, and I'll say the same thing for the next guy I'm going to bring over, and that is AJ Styles. The one difference between AJ Styles and Austin Aries is I would have Austin Aries as a heel AJ Styles is a face, and I'd bring back the phenomenal AJ Styles, because I have been watching a little bit of TNA, and that whole thing they did with AJ Styles, making him all, dark and moody and leather jackets and all that, that didn't work for him. And honestly, AJ Styles doesn't have the greatest set of vocal cords for a microphone. I'm not going to hate on him. I still like the wrestler. He can just be one of those guys who's all action, all action, all action, all action. Very few words, kind of like a Bret Hart. Even though Bret Hart did get on the mic and, it kind of was a little cringeworthy when it happened, but I do think AJ Styles would be a good fit in the WWE. And hopefully, if TNA guys do go to WWE, hopefully they don't get the WCW treatment of, you're just going to be nothing here. So I really do hope that he does actually come back to WWE. I mean, come to WWE. Because I think he's got a lot of good matches left in him, and I think he's got a lot of potential in him. And the last guy I would draft over, and this is only for me, my personal reasons, is Sting. I would bring Sting over to the company. Now, I would do this, maybe give him 1 or 2 matches if he wants it. Make him get into shape so he doesn't have to wrestle in a t-shirt. Give him a Hall of Fame spot. And you know what? As much as this has been a hot debate lately, I would have him wrestle The Undertaker. If they can get Sting, why not have him face The Undertaker? The match does not have to be 35 minutes. It can be 15. I would be perfectly fine with a 15-minute Undertaker-Sting match. WrestleMania 30. Perfect time to do it. It's been a dream match for how long? How long has it been a dream match? Everyone wants to see it. And people are going to argue, oh yeah, well I would love to see it if this was 1999. You know what? That may be true. They might have had a better match in 1999, but sometimes wrestling isn't about the mat wrestling and the high spots. It's about the drama and the dreams coming true. That's kind of captures the bit of wrestling. So I feel like WrestleMania 30 maybe have Punk vs. Bryan, so the diehard internet fans can go, oh my god, such an amazing technical classic. But on the other end of the spectrum, have Undertaker and Sting. Have that match. If they can get Sting, and if they have, right now, the way it's looking, because Sting is not in the company, I think Undertaker's ideal opponent for WrestleMania 30 is John Cena. However, if you can get Sting, have him go against The Undertaker. And if that's The Undertaker's last match, I think he would actually appreciate giving the fans what they want. Because if there's one thing we know about Undertaker, it's he doesn't care about himself. I don't mean that in a bad way. He doesn't value himself over the fans. He doesn't put himself before the fans. He puts the fans before himself all the time. And he, I believe, would be willing to have Sting wrestle him at WrestleMania 30. And if that's his go-away match, so be it. And people are arguing, oh, well, it's kind of sucks for Sting to go to the company he's never worked for and then lose. Losing to The Undertaker at WrestleMania is an honor. I don't know who would turn that down. Losing to The Undertaker does not hurt you. It does not bury you. It doesn't do anything like that. And people aren't going to care if Sting loses. They're not going to say, oh yeah, no wonder Sting never came here. He sucked. He lost to The Undertaker. Half the people know it's scripted, okay? Half people know this isn't a shoot fight and Sting is just going to be a pansy and just get beaten by The Undertaker. Who cares if Sting loses? Honestly, it makes all the sense in the world to have Sting face The Undertaker. If WWE doesn't want to do it, they want to go a different route, so be it. But if they somehow get Sting, if Sting just says, hey, you know what? I want to wrestle here 1 year, give me 1 or 2 matches, and let me work the big 4 pay-per-views, or maybe 1 appearance here and there. I'm fine with it. I don't see why WWE wouldn't put him with The Undertaker. That's the only logical opponent for him to have. And sure, Sting is up there with age, and sure, Taker is up there with age, but you know what? Sting is a good wrestler. Sure, he's not as good as he used to be in his youth, but my God, Sting can still wrestle. And if we know anything about The Undertaker, he can still wrestle too. And this won't be a 5-star match. It would shock a lot of people if it was. But you know what? This match doesn't have to be this 35-minute bloodbath. It can just be a 15-minute match. Have them hit their big moves, have them hit, pander to the crowd, and bam, you're satisfied. And you can have other matches that can satisfy the cravings of the internet fans. Just, if you can get Sting, and I would do it, I would set him against The Undertaker. Seems like the only logical thing for me. And his last question, I'm kind of out of breath here. Do you prefer Shawn Michaels' first run or his comeback? Now, I know a lot of his great matches and his great moments came from the first run. However, I prefer the comeback. One, because that's when I was a wrestling fan. When I started becoming a wrestling fan, that's when Shawn Michaels was coming back. He was coming back around, I started watching around like late 2002, early 2003. He still had the bob haircut, and he still was wrestling on a very limited schedule. And then WrestleMania 19 rolled around, and his match with Jericho, he says it himself, he was just like, all right, you know what, I'm back. This is going to be a legit thing. I'm back. So I don't really see the issue with saying his comeback is better, because his comeback, in my opinion, was better. Not just match quality-wise, but ultimately Shawn's outlook on the company. You could tell he was happier. You could tell he was more at peace with himself. You can look at some of his matches in his comeback years, in his, early years, and you could see the smile on his face. He's pandering to the crowd. He's kissing girls in the audience. But a good example would be maybe SummerSlam 1996, Shawn Michaels and Vader, where Shawn Michaels came off the elbow, and then he shifted gears in midair, which I don't know how he did that, because I wouldn't have been able to do that. But then he kicked Vader and was like, move, because Vader didn't move. He just made a mistake. You could tell Shawn Michaels had to pull up his ass throughout, maybe like the mid-90s, late 90s. And you know what? It's a good thing his back was hurt. Because let's say Shawn Michaels didn't change. He continued to be a dick all throughout the rest of his career. He would in no way be as admired as he is today. He wouldn't be as glorified as he is today. I mean, he still would be, because he's still one of the greats ever. Even after 1998, when it looked like he was retiring, he still looked like he had a Hall of Fame career in front of him. But you can't, you just, when you see Shawn Michaels enter the ring in 2005 as opposed to 1995, you can just tell he's happier. He's happy to be there. He's more focused on the fans. And, Shawn Michaels still might be in it for himself a little bit. I'm not going to knock him for that. I mean, I want to go, I would prefer to win matches and all that. So I don't, 100% blame Shawn for being a whole big of a dick in the 1990s. I mean, he still shouldn't have been. Because, I mean, if I were working with Shawn Michaels in the 1990s, I'd hate him too. Because, from the stories I've heard and from the stuff he did, I would have hated him too. I definitely would have hated him, because he sounded like a dick. And there only have been a few people that have come out and say Shawn Michaels continued to be a dick in the 2000s. But Shawn Michaels is more well-liked now. He's just an all-around better guy, and his ring work didn't drop either. He still had just as great as matches as he did in the 2000s than he did in the 90s. It's an equal amount. It's not like he just became a crap worker. He still produced quality matches, and he still was wrestling even when he got up there in age. He still didn't, he didn't ease back. He did have a lighter schedule, but he still performed balls to the wall 24/7. And he wasn't, again, another thing that shows Shawn Michaels' maturity is he was willing to put guys over. He didn't, cry about losing to Cena. And sure, there was a whole controversy with Hulk Hogan, but that's another bowl of fruits and nuts. But, he didn't cry about losing to John Cena at WrestleMania 23. Because, if Shawn Michaels had the same chip on his shoulder that he did in the 90s, he would have been pissed about losing to Cena at WrestleMania 23. But he dealt with it with a sense of maturity, because Shawn Michaels was mature. He was a better person. He was a better wrestler. He was just a better man, and he'll admit it himself. And, for him, it was becoming a born-again Christian. That's what set his life on the right path. And for some people, that's going to work for him. And whether you support his religion or not, it doesn't really matter. All you know is that Shawn Michaels became a better person. That's just, and you could, again, I know I've said it 1,000 times, you could tell. You can tell Shawn Michaels is just a better person. And you could tell. He just looked better. He didn't have that smug look on his face, even when he was trying to be happy. You could just tell. You could tell that people respected him, and you could tell that he was there for the fans. And you could tell that he was truly happy with himself and with his whole life right then and there. All right, so after that philosophical speech, we are done We are finally done with this thing. And guys, I'm so sorry it took forever to get this out. I said earlier that like my plan was to be like, oh, let's do one a season. That should catch on. I obviously don't have the attention span. I obviously don't have the time to put that together. I obviously can't do that. And I meant to get this out around like maybe November, like mid-November, I guess. But I don't know, like I started working and then the audio files got lost and then I accidentally deleted the video file on Movie Maker. That was my mistake, but still, I didn't feel like working on it anymore, and then I was going to start working on it again in December, but then my physics grade dropped really bad, and then, honors physics sucks, by the way, and then finals and all that, I mean, midterms, I'm still in high school, and yeah, it just wasn't working out for me, so that is it for that. So thanks for watching, and thanks for tolerating me, and I'll see you guys later.